Hello and welcome to WJTS in.form. I'm your host, Bill Potter. Special event is coming up this weekend at the Jasper Community Arts Center, and that is another one of these we'll read for food, or we'll sing or read for food. Let's find out more about that. I know you've heard about it and we've had him as guests before, but we're going to find out about this special event coming up. Joining me in the studio is Scott Saalman. He is I'm going to say the coordinator, the originator of the Will Read or Sing for Food, and Ed Walston, who is a retired teacher from Forest Park, now a professor at Vincennes University Jasper campus, but also well known throughout the community for his musical talents. Okay,
that might be
stretching it, but yeah, we'll take that. All right, Scott, first of all, let's talk. This coming weekend is going to be one special Will Read and Sing for Food.
Correct. And it's to benefit the Paul Michael Ash Endowment for Music and the Arts. And Paul used to be, he's still a part of us on our troupe. He was a great singer-songwriter, as a lot of people know. And we want to keep his songs and memory alive and help out the endowment, because it will help people in the future in endeavors related to arts and music, most probably. And so we're excited that JCAC is allowing us to be on their backstage to do this one. So,
and why are you heading at the Jasper Community Arts?
They approached me to do a show, and it's really cool because we've been doing this for almost 2 years now, and we've played every which way possible in different places here and
different communities.
So we feel like we made it. This is like the Carnegie Hall of Jasper. So we're excited. So thank you to Kit Miracle and the board out there for letting us come.
It should be an exciting place to play. The backstage when they do that, it's very intimate. A lot of which your performances are, but this is, like you mentioned, it's not that the others weren't a step below, but this is kind of like a different level for you.
It is a step up.
A step up, all right.
Yeah, and it still maintains that intimacy that this show really works best in. And we did a show. Our last show was at the Kimball International Auditorium, and that too is a nice, intimate venue. And I think we shine much more in those than when we play outdoors and battle the horns and everything else. So we're a listening show. You come to listen and you laugh and stomp your feet. And if we can get some people to dance, that would be great too.
And this is the Saturday night?
Yes, Saturday.
Okay. At what time and how do you pay to get in?
Right, October 5th, it's at 7:30 p.m. And it's $10 for adults. It's a recommended, minimum donation to the foundation. $5 for students. If you can't afford it, come anyhow. So that's pretty loose on that. You'll pay when you get at the door, and or not pay, and storm the door, whatever. And
just put some money in the fishbowl.
There you go.
If you leave early, then you have to pay. But,
there you
stick with us. Yeah.
And all of the money that's raised from this event this Saturday night goes to the Paul Michael Ash Endowment for Music and the Arts.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And this Paul just passed away this past year, so
right.
This I guess is an endowment that's just starting.
It was created when he died. Yes.
Posthumously, yeah. And I think it's worked through the DuBois County Community Foundation, how it's managed, and the whole, Paul was an incredible guy, and Ed's known Paul much longer than I did, and he was a special guy, wasn't he?
He certainly was. He was a very good friend and role model and inspiration, not only for my music, but also for my fight with cancer.
And not only an inspiration to you, but to others. I know that
yes.
he was one of there were discussions between he and his wife and others that got the Ferndale Folk Festival started.
Absolutely.
So there's Paul Michael Ash has made a lot of contributions musically to the area in ways that maybe he didn't realize he was going to be making.
I thought that was a beautiful moment last week at the Folk Fest, the moment of silence for Paul. That was nice.
Well, let's talk about the Will Read or Sing for Food. It's really, like you were talking about paying the admission, it's kind of a loosely run, but yet I'm sure organized, but it's kind of laid back sort of presentation of poems, stories. music?
It's rigidly designed to be laid back.
That's
what it
very
is.
informal. Yes,
Yeah.
that's a
Kind of
good
like
description
organized
of it.
chaos, I guess.
Well,
It's a-
that too, yeah.
Yeah, we've raised $12,800 since 2011, October 2011. So we're approaching 2 years, 2 seasons now, the end of the second season. And you know, normally it has been focused on the food bank. That's probably our core. And when we do food bank shows, it's mainly come, donate what you want, food, monetary. I always expected truckloads of food, and what I found out was we'd have a little goldfish bowl sitting out, and that sucker would be filled up with a lot of green and not as much food as expected, which then made me, I think that was wonderful. People could come with a can of corn. And what they're doing instead, they're putting money in that fish bowl. And very early on, I was like, wow, we can start setting goals here, monitor. We can start creating at least a goal for our show, where we want to be. And so we have these monetary levels we hope to achieve, you know, and the community is just so giving. And not news to you, Bill, or anyone, but it's a great thing to be a part of.
You know, it's a neat show in that you're not actors who have memorized lines.
Right.
Your folks are all reading scripts, reading other people's stories, reading stories you've written. For the most part, I'm saying you probably do have them somewhat memorized. But when people go, you're going to see music stands and notebooks in front of you as you read.
Yeah, I was telling you, it's almost, you know, it's kind of like it's like an old radio show, you know. You use the scripts and you get to see us do it live.
And when we mess up, that's live too.
Yeah, which we never do, ever.
Always perfect?
That's right.
All right, well, we're going to find out how perfect. There is readings and there is also singing. So we're going to have 2 samples of what you're going to see at the Will Read or Sing for Food. First, we're going to start with you, Scott. You're going to read an essay, and then we're going to have Ed Walston, who will be, it's hard for me to call you Ed and not Mr. from the old high school days. But we're going to have, Ed is going to perform a song from Paul Michael Ash. But first of all, Scott, we'll start with you and tell us a little bit about this essay.
Okay, this is the first time I got flagged for ask if I needed a senior citizen discount. I think I'm getting old, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, just let loose with it. It took 4 decades worth of concert going before it finally happened. I caught my first guitar pick. Rock and roll god Steve Miller tossed it from stage to me after his signature song, The Joker. You know, I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight toker. It helped that I was in the front row, which is where you want to be when a performer pitches a pick. Those flimsy plastic triangles don't travel very far. I can think of no one more deserving than me to catch Steve Miller's pick. The Steve Miller Band was my first favorite band in the 70s. When I snagged the pick, I couldn't help but believe Steve and I, momentarily at least, were best friends. It was a cosmic connection, 40 years in the making, with the space cowboy himself. Several days after the concert, I was still bragging about the magical Steve Miller moment with my coworkers and friends, how the white pick fluttered like a slow-motion moth toward my outstretched hands, how the trajectory ended with a soft landing in my upturned palm, how the 10-cent piece of plastic made the $70 concert ticket worth the investment, how I had dreamed of such a moment since attending my first concert at age 18, how, my God, Scott, a friend interrupted during my last play-by-play account, robbing me of my moment. What are you, 17 years old? Well, that's the whole point of the pick. Due to the power of the pick, I did feel 17 again, for a few days at least, until I was humbled at the cinema after requesting a ticket for The Butler. The girl behind the counter, who was 17, asked, yes, she asked, I kid you not, she asked, do you want an adult ticket or a senior ticket? By senior, she didn't mean high school senior. I turned my head to see who she was talking to. There was no one else in line. Are you kidding me? I replied. It must have been the ear hairs I forgot to trim. Geez, I'm 48, I said. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't know if she meant she was sorry that she had made a mistake or she felt sorry for me for being 48. I spoke to the manager managing the nearby popcorn machine. Did you hear what she asked me? She asked if I needed a senior discount. It really came as a shock to hear this question directed at me for the first time. The manager merely shrugged, with that same nonchalant, chilling effect as when you would hear Tony Soprano look at you and say, "What are you gonna do?" That's the best Italian guy I do. "Fire her," I suggested. Granted, the cashier might not have meant I looked 65, which I believe is the doorstep of senior citizenry, but she obviously thought I looked old enough to be eligible for a senior discount. True, she was only 17, as I once was, daydreaming in math class about catching Steve Miller's guitar pick. I remember how old 48 seemed when I was 17, which explains why she looked at me like I was one of those old people in grocery stores who pull grapes from the stems and chew them in the produce section without even paying. They don't even bother doing this covertly, as if they are actually walking through their own personal vineyard in Napa Valley. Is this an official AARP perk? Do they do this to bananas too? While I haven't pilfered any grocery store grapes yet, there have been some signs of my impending senior status. Several times lately, I've forgotten to zip my pants before going to work, an unsettling discovery during meetings, especially when I'm the presenter. For the first time, I allowed a bag boy to carry my groceries to my car at Holiday Foods. I used to have to wrestle the darn things for them just to prove I was still living in the age of self-sufficiency. I recently reached the point of being too old and impatient for fast food drive-through service. I succumbed to restaurant rage and become more crotchety at a quicker rate. Case in point, after ordering a plain cheeseburger for my daughter, the pipsqueaky speaker voice replied, "So, you don't want cheese on it?" "No, I do want cheese on it, or else that would be a hamburger. I said I wanted a plain cheeseburger." "But you said plain." "I said cheeseburger." I worried what might actually have been put on that cheeseburger out of spite due to my crankiness, but ultimately that was my daughter's problem. In hindsight, I should have just asked for a senior ticket at the cinema. It would have saved some money. But I just couldn't. It's the principle of it all, to reinforce that I was only 48 during each of the 3 times I visited the restroom during the butler, darn prostate. I glared at the teen cashier to remind her that I was still young enough to pay full price for a movie. It's my movie going right. Top price, baby. To further demonstrate my youthful coolness, I considered pulling the guitar pick out of my pocket and tell her about my Steve Miller story. However, catching a pick thrown by a 70-year-old musician would likely not impress her. By the way, Steve Miller's song The Joker turned 40 this year. Hard to believe. Suddenly I have an urge to steal some grapes. That's what we do.
That is terrific. I've had experiences much like that. And now we're going to give you an idea of what the music will be, as Ed Walston will be performing something written by Paul Michael Ash.
The last time I visited with Paul, we talked about looking up old Army buddies from Vietnam, and he gave me this song that he had written about looking for 2 of his old Army buddies, and he said, "Here, make it your own." After he died, I added a verse about him and then another verse to wrap it up. And so this song has the first 2 verses that were written by Paul Ash and the second 2 verses written by me. And I'm using Paul Ash's capo, which was given to me by his wife Miriam. And I'm also using a guitar that came from Vietnam. The song is called Jerry, Richard, and Paul. Has anybody out there seen Jerry Lyons? He was my partner even before the war. Last time I saw him, we were flying out of Queen Yon. And then since then I ain't seen Jerry anymore. anybody out there seen Richard grow? Got a picture of us standing in front of the embassy. We had a pass, 3 days in Saigon. I wonder, does Richard still remember me? Has anybody out there seen my brother Paul? I can still hear his laughter in the song of the wind. Last time I saw him, I said I'd be back soon. I'd give anything just to see Paul again. I sure do miss Jerry, Richard, and Paul. Wish I could see them all one more time. We were all soldiers, poets, and travelers. When we get home, everything will be fine. If we can just get home, everything will be fine.
Very good. Wish I had a lighter. That was a great performance by Ed Walston here on the WJTS in.form program.
And
Just a
Scott
sample.
Saalman.
Oh, and yeah, well, and Scott Saalman.
Mr. Saalman to you.
We're going to give you an idea of what you're going to see at the We'll Read for or Sing for Food this coming Saturday. And Scott, if you could, since I did remiss in giving you credit, if you could give us an idea or run down the logistics.
Right, it's October 5th at the Arts Center in Jasper. That's out where VUJC is, but it's in the Arts Building. It's at 7:30. Price, $10 adult, $5 student. And that's just recommended. You can come for free if you can't afford it, but the money, all of it goes to the Paul Michael Ash Endowment for Music and the Arts.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks to Ed and Scott, who have been our guests on WJTS in.form. We are local people watching local people.